Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
I am super excited today. This is the first ever episode of Love Your Sales. I am joined by Sarah Bauer. She has nearly 2 decades in sales. She runs her own team at Heartland Payment Systems, which is a part of Global Payments Incorporated, one of the largest payment processors in the U.S. Sarah, welcome. I'm so excited for you to join me on the first ever episode.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes. So I think to dive in today, what we are going to do is, I guess, talk about some of the things that a lot of salespeople, a lot of people on the outside of sales, talk about, which is some of, I guess, the misconceptions of salespeople, what we do, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and I've experienced this in my career. I think one of the hottest topics is salespeople go out and have all the fun. Have you ever heard that in your career?
Oh yeah, it's a very glamorous job, let me tell you. But yes, you're right. And I think one of the biggest challenges is someone who's not in a sales position. So you're in engineering, you're in ops, you're an admin, whatever that position is. Every business has a sales team. It might be very large. It might be a person of one. It might look differently in every organization, but you see them going to dinners, grabbing a golf outing, kind of working early, working late. And it's kind of like, well, wait a second. Are you working? Are you just having fun? Are you going out for drinks? Like, wait a second. I'm here doing my job. Why are you going out and having a blast? And there is this truth to it, right? Like networking and building relationships is a huge component of sales, and it might be even more so in some industries over the other. But I can see how that can be a little challenging, especially if you are sitting in a leadership position where you maybe have your sales team going out and doing all the air quote fun things, and then the team that has to stay behind to do all the busy work or the face-to-face in office work, how that can kind of be perceived as like, wait a second, they're going out and having all the fun. And I will say this, sales is fun, but it's fun for different reasons. It's not necessarily like, woohoo, I get to go golfing or I get to go, do trap shooting or whatever it might be. Yes, there's some fun components of it, but I'll let you in on a secret. Sometimes I would really just rather stay in the office and do the thing too. So
right.
There's more to it than that. And, the grass is always greener, but yes, there's definitely that preconceived notion that that's what we're doing. And there is truth to it. We actually are doing these activities. They are a part of the sales process, but it can be kind of exhausting too, to be honest. It's that always on kind of mentality. There's not that break like you might have working in an office. So you can go grab your lunch and go on a lunch break. Actually, I need to go see a client. I need to go. You're always on, and that's the exhausting component of it. It's a trade-off.
Right. Yeah. And now you've been with your organization for 6+ years. You run a team. You have a team that you manage. Is that the proper word?
Yeah. Yeah, I both manage a team as well as sell myself. So it's a managerial role, but it's my primary function is to bring on net new clients. So it's more of a support system. So it's the best of both worlds.
Right. So not only are you out there constantly selling yourself and, but you're also supporting other people. So you've got the best of both worlds. And it's
Yeah,
funny
exactly.
because prior to us, recording, you and I were talking about you just coming off of a business trip, getting home, you have a family, and people are like, oh, it would be so great to, be in sales, and you're constantly out having drinks with people. Well, sometimes I want to hide in a closet, eat my lunch, and just decompress. But that's typically not an option for a day in the life of a salesperson. It's
No.
just, it's not usually, not usually, but quite often we're like, oh, great, I can have lunch and also meet with a client at the same time, because now I'm getting actually more work done while I'm eating, right? So
Hmm.
sure, glamorous. I get to go, have lunch on the company dime if your company is one that pays or reimburses for that. But the reality is that you're still out there, you're still working when, a lot of these other individuals are actually walking into a lunchroom or going up into their kitchen, depending on your work situation, and being able to decompress, being able to play a game on their phone, watch a show, get some laundry done, whatever your routine is on that lunch break.
It is something to think about too. Really, I've met some really incredible sales professionals in my career, and it doesn't matter what you're selling and what your audience is. A good and successful sales professional is always on. So take it even a step further. You go to Thanksgiving dinner, right? And maybe or a friendsgiving, or you go out for a social event, like a truly social event, and inevitably someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" Right? And there's your pitch, right? There's where you have that opportunity. Well, I got to tell you, it's real easy to be like, "Oh, I work in sales." And then typically, if you just say that, people go, "Ugh," and they walk away because they like, "Ugh, salespeople." But here's an opportunity where, especially if you have a pretty wide range of market, if you take that a step further and explain in a short amount of time what you do, you might, and many times this has happened to me, kind of go, "Oh, my brother-in-law is looking for something like that." And so to go back to the always on part, truly a successful sales professional is going to weave their life and their work together. So it is exhausting in that sense. But let's just say, and I'm just going to say you're an admin for a company. Well, yeah, you're not actively seeking new business necessarily. You could explain like what the company does, but that's not your primary function. So being on in sales does even extend into family and personal life as well. And truly successful salespeople will totally embrace that too. It's just kind of a part of your nature, and yeah. It doesn't bother me anymore, but I remember a time when I really wanted to separate church and state. And as soon as you embrace it, it's kind of like the concept of like people who have a work phone and a personal phone. Honestly,
Mhm.
it's just like it's all one phone. If you want to talk, if someone wants to buy from me, I am happy to take that phone call.
Right. And here's the absolute funny thing. As you're saying that, I'm going, oh yeah. You know how many times my husband's had to pull me to the side and go, no, honey, this is date night. You're not allowed to talk about work. And I'm like, yeah, but that could be the next client. That could be the client who's paying for this dinner or paying for the next mortgage payment. And he's like, you need to shut it off. And I'm like, I don't know how to shut it off, but I will make every effort in the world because I love you. And then the next person walks up and they're like, oh, hi. And they're talking to us. And then the inevitable conversation starts. What do you do for a living? What? And I look at my husband and I go, I'm in sales.
Here's sales. Here's sales. And say it proudly. One of the things that I struggle with, and if I could really ever make an impact on this world, is that the whole like, ooh, you work in sales, like that feeling that maybe someone outside of sales kind of gets when you hear that we could just make it normal. So I think back to my high school when you do those career tests, right?
Mhm.
And you fill it out like what you're going to be good at. And then you get into college and you might have a path, right? Like where you want to go, what you want to do when you grow up. Do you remember being offered the opportunity to learn about sales? I mean, I think back to that. I remember going, I'm going to be a manager and I'm going to be an executive and I'm going to move up the chain and this is what I'm going to do. And granted, live and learn a little bit, but I get into sales soon after college. I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that." But like, all we had was a sales position open. I'm like, fine. And I did it. And I was like, well, but I want to be a manager. Well, I got to tell you what, my first job out of college, I worked in sales. And then eventually they added managerial responsibilities onto me. And at the time, I mean, 22, 23, 24 years old, I'm like, what did I get into? I don't want to manage people. This is awful. This is
Mm-hmm.
awful. I'll go back to sales. And so my next career, I strictly worked in a sales environment, really had a blast with it. Obviously, as you grow and you mature, there's managing a sales team is a lot different than just general managing. But go back to that high school and go back to that college. Like, what could we do to impact our either young and even people mid-career that are kind of hitting a wall? I mean, here's a great line that I'm gonna credit my dad for this line. Salespeople are the only people that are paid exactly what they're worth. Think about that for a minute. It's not to ding any other career, any profession that it's not
Mm-hmm.
important, but in a sales environment, you make your own income, right? You are paid
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're worth. And if you think about the trajectory in your career, and it's okay, we don't need to follow a straight path. You might be brand new in sales listening to this. You might be like, yep, been in it longer than you. Or, gosh, you're right. I do have those preconceived notions about sales. If you really think about it and you think about the economy and you think about all the crazy things that happen in our world, salespeople are paid exactly what they're worth. You make your own path, right?
Mm-hmm.
You alluded to, I have little ones. I have little ones. They're not little anymore, but they were little. You want to talk about weaving your life and your work together so that you can serve both your family as well as your career. It's possible in this particular path. So I did have those preconceived notions about sales. I wish I would have been exposed to it earlier at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine being truly out of a sales environment at this point in my career, but I wish we exposed our younger generation to the possibility of sales and what that could mean from them, not just from an income perspective, but also from a work-life balance, which in the last few years, we've all kind of had a taste of that work from home. I got to tell you what, you like working from home. This is the career to do it. Yes, you got to do those late nights. Yes, you got to go to the golf outings. Yes, you have to learn to golf. I got invited to pickleball the other day. I don't know how to play pickleball, but I guess I'm going to learn how to play pickleball. So yes, there are those things, but it is one of those things where if you're in sales, you can really make it what you want it to be at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I grew up in a sales family. And I remember asking, my dad at an early, like a young age, like, oh, I want to do this. And I remember him saying to me, you're not ready. And here's why. And it was very apparent and when I was younger that I was not ready. I couldn't listen. I would sit down and I would just word vomit. Blah, 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 everything about me. And I still sometimes get off on tangent. I get up on my soapbox and I'm blah, 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 blah. And I have a podcast, for God's sakes. I like to talk. However, after really, really leaning in and learning about myself, I realized the world doesn't revolve around me. This is also a rite of passage for a lot of young kids. The world revolves around me. My parents showered me with all of this stuff. I was, for all intents purposes, lived quite a privileged life. Had, never wanted for anything. So yes, I grew up thinking that the world revolved around me. It took life experience for me to realize that there was a hell of a lot more to the world than just me. And when I learned that, I learned to listen. One of the most important skills to any salesperson out there, being able to set your own needs aside and listen and hear and understand other human beings. And I think that that is one of the things that people mistake in salespeople, that we are empathetic human beings, that we truly want to understand, help, and ultimately solve problems for our clients. Yes, can we be boasty? But that's also because, wow, I just did that. Especially early in my career, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just had a sale. Oh my God, somebody bought from me. And we were then taught that people don't buy from people they don't like. So somebody bought from me equals somebody likes me, which was a strange concept early on in my career.
Mhm.
So
If you think about it, if you think about that right there, a couple things come to mind. What, two ears and one mouth, right?
Mhm.
Active listening is tough. I
Yes.
still struggle with it. You probably still struggle with it too. You're
Oh,
an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. Active listening is a skill that we are working on every day,
mhm.
whether it be with your children, with a family member, with someone in the office. And why is active listening important? So there's listening, right? Like there's being able to reiterate exactly what you just said, but there's active listening. And this is like, bringing sales to a whole nother level. First, you get the win. That's kind of cool. Someone bought from me, right?
Mhm.
Got another win. You're gonna have a couple losses in there too.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's a topic for another day. But that active listening is really important. And why is that important? What am I doing? I'm watching your body language.
Mhm.
Are you sitting there like this when I walk in the door? Are you open? What language are you using? Are you using strong words as a potential client? Am I listening to the words that you're saying, like hate or don't like or working or not working? Am I reiterating those words back to you? It's actually like you can gamify this job. We talk about that all the time. You can gamify it. You're not gonna win every sales. I'm just gonna say that right now. You're not gonna win them all. The best thing in the world is a yes. The second best thing is a no. And the worst is a maybe or a never getting back to you. But
Right.
that active listening skill is how you drive from that initial conversation to close, how
Mhm.
you really truly can walk out of there and go, I gave it the best I could. And I will tell you, I'm a humble person too. I have bombed on this. I still do. I still have days where even now, almost 2 decades into this job, where it's just sales in general, where I'll walk in, I'm not really listening. I'm really just like, oh, I got to do this thing and I do whatever. And I walk out of there and I kind of go, what did I do wrong?
Right.
9 times out of 10, I wasn't listening. I wasn't prepared and I wasn't listening.
Right.
I was rushing through it. I was word vomiting all over the person. Right. And it's okay to fall flat on your face, man. It happens even to the best of us.
And I was taught early on in my career, the faster you get through the no's, the quicker you get to the yes. And
Yeah.
I was never taught that a no was a bad thing. I was always taught that a no at least releases you to move on.
Oh,
That
I love
the
no's. No's
the
are
may
great.
oh yeah, the maybe is the thing that you go, okay, what am I missing? Because they're not saying no. Either they're one of those people who just can't say no, or I'm just missing the thing.
Yep.
And that is the thing that'll drive any salesperson crazy. Then you're like, okay, what do they need? What am I missing? What thing will push them over the edge? And then you get stuck in this like, but something that you said, you and I both know somebody that says this all the time. I show up and I can't remember when I arrive or when I get there. And that's wildly important because if you're not showing up, then you're gonna fail. And I've done it too. I still do it. I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm just like, okay, let me tell you about my product. And at the end of it, I go, what was I doing? They're not gonna buy from me. I wasn't engaged. I didn't make a connection. That's on me. Like, I wouldn't have bought from me.
We are always asking ourselves, what's in it for me? You might be
Right.
listening to this podcast right now. I guarantee you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, what's in it for me? What's
Right.
the purpose of me investing time in listening to this podcast? And that's okay. What's in it for me?
Right.
So active listening allows that sales professional, even if you're not a sales professional, like try this in your own personal life when you have the 5-year-old that wants to tell you a story that's 20 minutes long. Okay. Like you really want to talk about patience and active listening, talk to a toddler or a young child. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But think about this too. You're active listening. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? So if you
Right.
can listen and speak to what's in it for them, you don't have to go through your spiel. Let me tell you a secret about sales. They don't care when your company was started. They don't care where your headquarters are. They don't even really care about you and your family and where you come from and all that. Like, I'm going to be really honest with you. I still remember when I first started in the career I'm at. I'm going to tell you guys a story. This is great because you're going to probably like be like, oh yeah, been there, done that. I walk in, it's like one of my first meetings, and I'm drinking from a fire hose. Like, I'm learning this industry, I'm learning this company. I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I've got to get this done, right? And I have a binder with me, and it's got like pictures of our corporate office, and it's got like statistics about how many employees we have. And I'm just like, okay, this is gonna be great. And I remember I was sitting across the table from someone, and he was the kindest human, the kindest person. And you could tell how incredibly uninterested he
Right.
was.
The
But
eye
I didn't know
roll.
what the heck I was doing. I was in, and again, this does happen when you're new in a role. And I'm flipping through this book like, oh, aren't we wonderful? Look at us. And we do all the things. And I still think back to that meeting. I did not close the deal. He was very kind, and was just let me do my thing. And I walked out of there. I'm like, oh, that was so great. That was so wonderful. I'm like, actually, like reflecting back at it, like, him about him, his business, what he wanted, what was important to him, and that's okay. So there's my tip. If I can leave a tip, no one cares about you
Right.
and your family and your life and your company and where they started and how long now, if they ask you, or if it's relevant to the conversation based off
Right.
of active listening, like, well, how long have you guys been around? Well, let me tell you about that. Then you answer it, right? But
Mhm.
if it's not relevant to the conversation, they don't care. And pro tip, you don't have to tell them. It's not even, if it's not important to them, don't bring it up. Doesn't matter.
Right.
They are asking the question, what's in it for me? Always.
So here's something, and something that you brought up. First of all, my first sales presentation, I still think back, and I had a mentor with me, which was great because had I not, it would have I would have walked out crying.
To be a fly
I
on the wall, right?
right when I started speaking so fast that my mentor looked at me, and the person that I was pitching to looked at me like oh my God. And I went, oh. And so I managed to slow down and like get through it. But I remember when we walked out, my mentor, his name was Colin, he went, whoa, that was rough, but you did better. I was like, I know, I could feel it. I'm like, I could even feel you guys both snap your head and look at me like, what just happened to her?
But you have to go through that. You have to go through it, and it's okay. It's okay to fall flat on your face. Oh my
Oh,
God, it's
oh,
totally okay.
right.
And what are you really doing? It's not that, yes, you don't know the product yet, and yes, you're new to the thing. It's confidence.
Oh yeah. It
It's
was nerve
confidence,
wracking.
and that only comes with practice and
Right.
time
Yeah.
and good mentorship and leadership. So if you're new in a role, like if you all of a sudden said, I need you to sell me, we're going to go out into the field, we're going to sell cell phones. That's what we're going to do. Okay. I mean, I can fake it till I make it, but I couldn't tell you much about selling cell phones. I don't know how to sell cell phones, right? So I'm probably going to speak fast. I'm probably going to be all over the place. I'm probably not going to be active listening. And this is just assuming like you just took me and dropped me into a meeting and I had no time to prepare. And that's okay. But I think recognizing that, and you think back to that conversation and how you felt, like
Right.
that's going to stick with you forever. And that's okay. That is
Right.
absolutely okay, because what are you doing? You're comparing every other sales presentation to when you were in that moment and talking
Right.
fast. And have you ever caught yourself talking fast again because you were nervous or you realized you were unprepared? I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to happen again.
Right. And that's my default setting when I get nervous. I talk fast. But now I've learned to, and a lot, I've started to learn to, before I do anything, breathe, because I know that's my, like, I stop breathing and I get, and again, I've talked to speakers who get on stage. What do you do before you go out there? Every single one of them will say, you don't forget to breathe. And I'm like, oh, that's probably important. But so now there's something else
Yeah.
you mentioned. There's this whole myth that only salespeople sell. And you were talking about your child. You know, what's in it for them on a daily basis. And I preach this constantly to companies I work with, to, my clients. And even in the HR world, that not only salespeople are selling. When we're talking about culture, when we're talking about, a whole ton of people in your network. So when they say only salespeople sell, what would be your response to that?
If you think about it, maybe you can argue with me on this. Sales is the oldest profession there is, right? We are selling every day, all day long, every single one of us. So back that up just a little bit. Don't think about it in terms of like, I work for a company and my title says sales. I'm going to go back to the kid component because I think this is relevant. There's a really great book, and I'll touch on two things. It's called Go for the No. I don't know the author off the top of my head, but we talked about no's and how no is great. So let's just say sitting across the table from a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old goes, "Can I have some candy?" And it's not time to have candy or dessert. No, sorry. And you can have some candy. No. Can I have some candy? No. Okay. So what's going on there? What's that conversation? Well, he's trying to sell it to you, right? Now, maybe they're giving you a reason, maybe not. That's sales, right? You're selling to you. Do in reverse. I'm trying to sell on the 3-year-old to eat his peas. Tell you what, if you eat 3 bites of these peas, I mean, this is a very rudimentary example, but think about it. I'm going to give you this. What am I doing? I'm negotiating. I'm selling. I'm like, hey, if you eat those peas, you're going to grow big and strong, right? So I'm selling to him. He's can be coming back at me and trying to sell to me to have some candy, right? But this is a sales conversation. This is sales, right? So
Right.
take that a little bit further. Okay, so I'm talking about in a personal life setting. You are talking to your husband and you want to, or your wife or your significant other, and you're talking about, we're going to go on vacation next year. It's a negotiation, right? Well, I really want to go somewhere warm. Well, I want to go on a cruise. Well, I want to go on an adventure trip. So these are really simple things. Now take that into the business environment. You are not in sales. You are in HR. Okay. I'm in HR. I'm in hiring. I'm in retention and compliance. This is what I do. I don't sell. Yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do, because you are recruiting. You are
Right.
selling the package. You are selling the whole picture, right? You're vetting. You're 100% doing that. You're selling the idea of working here to that person. Yes, it doesn't look like a sales conversation. You're getting a yes or a no. You are choosing to do business with someone or not, right? You're interviewing
Right.
those people and going yes or no. Vice versa. It's a two-way sales conversation. And then to take it a step further, if you think about it, like you own a company and you've got a sales team and you've got an operations team and you've got all the other people that work for you, everyone is in sales. Because what happens when that operation guy goes and he's going to the bar later on and you're, what do you do for a living? I work down the street at ABC company. And how is it? It's kind of crap, Okay, what are you doing? You are selling. You're not doing a very good job of selling. You're not talking very positively about. But what if he says, actually, I really like working there. I've been there 20 years. It's great. We're hiring. Oh my gosh. We're not only selling the idea of working there, but we're also selling the idea of maybe doing business with them at the bar. So sales is truly in every part of our life. And I'm okay. You got to own it, right?
Right.
We are not used car salespeople. And honestly, used car salespeople are awesome. They have some of the best techniques in the world. We could probably do a whole episode on selling
Right.
cars and selling goods,
Right.
but we are all in sales. And if you think about it, just think about your day up until this point. I bet you've sold something.
Right.
I bet you've negotiated something already. You might have even negotiated with yourself. I'm going to go work out today or not. Like if you really think through it, we're all in sales. So it's okay. It's not, sales is not a swear word. It's not,
Right.
it's a good thing.
And,
But some of us choose to take it to that next level and make it our career. And that's
right.
okay too. And that's where it really is, have some fun.
And I love that concept, especially when we're breaking it down to, even down to the kid level. It is something that children start from the time they can talk. They start trying to negotiate and sell their parents on ideas or on things they want. It is something that is literally comes naturally just along with talking. So the idea that, I've heard this so many times throughout my career. I don't, I've been around longer than you. Or maybe, I don't know. But God, I hate salespeople. I've heard that line and I'm like, why? Why do you hate salespeople when you yourself are at your core somehow a salesperson? You have negotiated, you have sold at some point in your life, maybe not as a career choice, but on a daily basis, you are negotiating with somebody or yourself in some way. And you have from the time that you could speak. Now, whether or not you choose to be a sleazy salesperson out there who is, using techniques that are, deemed inappropriate, or, and again, that would be a whole nother conversation, but there are genuine people out there and the genuine salespeople are the ones that will exist long into the future. The ones that are not, they're a flash in the pan. They will not, like you said, salespeople are the only ones who can write their own worth. The ones who are, not above board, who are doing it the wrong way, they are truly a flash in the pan and they will not make it because they are found out quickly, surely, and quite immediate.
You're selling yourself, like you said earlier. That's
Correct.
At the end of the day, you're selling yourself, and it's a branding thing. And yeah, it is interesting that you say that. And yeah, you're right. We could definitely go through a whole entire conversation just about, the techniques used behind it. But I guess my big takeaway and the big comment I'll make here is like, don't be afraid to proudly say that you're in sales in a conversation. And two, don't be afraid to try it. I mean, you got to start somewhere, and you will fall flat on your face, and that's okay. Your ego is the only thing that is bruised at the end of the day. So
that is
sorry,
very true.
But it's true.
I've had plenty of ego bruising, and any salesperson, even the greatest salespeople in the world, have fallen on their face. And that's okay. It's the people who are willing to admit it, get up and do it again, who are the ones who are going to go from being good. Oh, now I'm naming a book, but being good and becoming the greats of the world. So Sarah, we are coming to time. I want to give you a moment to, give a little bit more background about you. If somebody wants to reach out to you, give us your 30-second pitch.
Yeah, there you go. So again, I do work in the financial technology space. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect. I'm happy to mentor, coach, just give you a word of advice if you're in sales or thinking of it, or maybe you hire sales professionals, or maybe you're an owner of a business. But I work in the B2B space. So I sell from business owners to other business owners to move money when they use everything from credit and debit card processing, ACH, payroll, all that fun stuff. So I really, truly enjoy working in that small to medium-sized business space and helping mentor owners. But even in the sales professional space, I mean, I've been mentored by some wonderful people in my career. It's a pay it forward strategy. So that's really where I'm at. And yeah, I'm so glad that we were able to chat with about sales today. Oh my gosh, it's not a swear word, you guys. It's not a swear word. It's a great word. Say it proudly. When the next holiday gathering, if someone asks you what you do for a living, proudly say you work in sales. Even if you don't, and see what their reaction is. Try it. Let us know how it works.
Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, connect with Leanne on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leanne can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.